So the pronunciation of our company's name is HiScene. It's not to be confused with HiSense, although we already got some trouble with that. So I'm very glad to talk to you about our experience in deploying AR technology in various industrial applications in China. Now, excuse me, is this the controller? Okay. So we know that AR changes our way of living and working, and here we have prepared two short videos. Could you please play the first one, the left one? Is that okay? Here it goes. Well, where is the sound? Does it come with the sound? Should come with some beautiful music here. But basically, the idea is that this shows one case that we have with the logistic company, how our glass, the glass that was introduced about 2 years ago, can be used to assist the workers in various scenarios, including first, they log on to the system and get assigned all the list of tasks for the day, and it helps them to guide the way, guide it to the correct location. Along the way, it tells them, for example, the co-workers that they met, and also the items, the information about the items. And here next is, well, what happens if something happens to the instrument, some malfunction, and if he cannot solve it on the site, he can call a remote expert. The expert will see what he sees. We call it see what you see. I see what you see. Then they can solve the problem together with the expert showing him the key point and the key solutions there. And all the information is also recorded as part of the knowledge base and then used later for training and analyzing. The idea is still holds its value today, and not only in this logistic scenario. Actually, it applies to. We find it applies to almost all the industrial scenarios where you need to identify objects, you need to identify employees, you need to identify the work items, and also you need guidance. For example, this is a guidance of how to assemble certain PCB parts. So a smart glass can be the key point to assist you in all these scenarios. Now the next one, this basically shows how this can be applied to a normal life, not industrial. But the same thing here is that the smart glass plays a key role because it frees your hand and also gives you information on site, on spot, on time. I will not spend too much time on this one because I want to focus on how it can be applied in the work scenario. So let me take you to the next slide. Basically, this is how we look at AR, how it can change the way we work. It can assist us in 3 ways: the cognition, the performance, perception. Basically, it will help us to see what we cannot see without AR. Basically, here without a smart glass. With the smart glass, it will show you information that is hidden. That is, for example, the data about the device, or for example, a guidance. So it will enable you to see what you cannot see before, see the unseen, that is. And also it will help you to understand the unknown. So if there is a problem, it will tell you possible causes. It will also connect you to a remote expert, and that will tell you even more. And then with the unseen being seen and the unknown being known, we believe you can perform better, you can do what you cannot do before, because you are assisted by a very user-friendly interface in a very natural way, and also backed up by a remote assistant that can be any expert all across the globe. So I think we see the value of AR, especially in the industrial environment, is to enable you to see, to enable you to understand, and then perform. Our team, then, our vision is to enable workers as well as management to utilize AR technology to enhance the way how they work and how they perform on a daily basis. Let me see. So we started about 6 or 7 years ago, and along the way we have, on one hand, developed our own hardware on which we can build all these applications, and also alongside that we developed our SDK to enable developers to develop applications for themselves, because we know that as a small company we cannot solve all the problems by ourselves, so we want to enable them to help them and help us as well. But one important thing that in the video I just showed you is what we call high layer. That is a fundamental, I think we can call it a platform, because that's a remote communication. It's instead of face-to-face, it's like side-by-side. So you will see what I see when you are on the other side of the globe. And in that way, we solve the problem of bringing all the elements, basically the workforce, together virtually to face the problem. And on top of that, you can imagine all kinds of applications. For example, we have a industrial customer recently who before they have to send at least 2 people for one task because of the regulations and because they want them to double check each other. But the location that they went to, the nearest one I think is about 50 miles. So that will take them 1 day trip just to check the devices, which will take them about half an hour just to check the devices, but they have to travel because the road condition there is very, very under standard. So with this technology, they can now send just 1 person there, and the other one can stay at the base. And the one at the base can assist multiple field engineers at the same time. So that saves them immediately half of the workforce needed. And that is the way I think a simple and yet powerful solution how it can serve the industry in a straightforward way, even though it does not involve very advanced or complicated. You can say it's almost the very basic communication. But once that is there, they can put it to use and already get a lot of value out of it. Now, let me go there. So the way we build our platform, we basically focus on 3 parts. First, we know that there must be device. Without it, it is impossible to deliver a user-friendly user interface for them. Although handheld devices like phones, pads, or other stuff can be used, but that is not the ideal case in the industrial environment, because if we introduce extra handhelds, that will break their workflow, that will add burdens to their usual behavior. They have to change the way they work. So that's really why we designed our own smart glass. And then to deliver the contents, for example, to enable them to communicate remotely, we need a channel. And by that, I mean the high-layer software that we have developed, we call it the channel. And it can be other channels can also work, but the channel, the important thing now is that with the emergence, with the coming of 5G era, the channel is very realistic now. Before, when we implemented the remote assistant software, we always have to spend a lot of effort in trying to get the best communication because the connectivity problem. But with the 5G approaching, the connectivity problem suddenly becomes not that relevant anymore. It will be solved so easily then, and then we can really focus on how to deliver the AR experience itself, not having to squeeze everything into a very narrow channel. Now we can get all the quality, the low latency, and everything. It comes natural now. Now, the content itself, for the industry, the content is really important because already they have all the data they accumulated over decades on their products, on their workflow, on the procedures, but that cannot be easily utilized in an AR environment. For one thing, for example, the CD models or the 3D models they already have, that is targeted at manufacturing. So that is very accurate, it's very elaborate, and it's huge, basically. It cannot be transmitted or displayed or manipulated on a mobile device efficiently. So that is one thing. Secondly, they want to show it differently. They don't want to show all the details of how that could be manufactured. That's irrelevant. And also, there is also a security problem. So the cloud, the content has to be prepared, and that is really a barrier now because all the industry, they do not have the tools or the workforce to efficiently transform all the data they have into AR-friendly data. And whenever we have to work with a new customer, we have to walk them through the process again, telling them or teaching them how to do that. And although we have developed some tools, we found it still preliminary. And that is one area that we are still working on. And I hope the AR industry, I'm glad to see that, for example, some leading companies have already developed a very user-friendly, even 3D type of editor. That is a very good start, but that will enable our customers to create a new content. Still, the problem remains how to convert the old data, the existing legacy data, into an AR-friendly format. That is ongoing, I think. We try to separate the cloud architecture from a general cloud architecture by specifying the components that's needed in an AR environment. So the very fundamental framework, very fundamental infrastructure remains the same, but then on top of it, you will see we need a 2D, 3D, the environment understanding. We need mapping, localization, That's all the kernel of AR environment. And also we need some user interaction, for example, gesture, voice, and we need a deep learning now to understand more and more of the objects that they work with, not only just to display a model there, but also to understand if they are interacting with the correct object in the correct way. More and more customers now, they demand that. They demand us to use AI to monitor the process of how the work works. Because, so firstly, they really want us to monitor the process just by recording it. That's the very first step. And once they are there, almost immediately they will try to say, hey, can you guys also develop an algorithm to detect if the worker is doing the right thing or not, other than, because at the first step they think they can record everything and then monitor that using an operator later, but then they immediately realize that there are just too many data, too many hours of video. They cannot use manpower to do that. So the next step is almost an immediate response. With all this technology, when we apply that to different industries, we find that they need different services. I see that in the future, I believe in the future, it will come, the convergence will come, and they will find many common services now. But now, almost every customer, they just propose their very specialized demand. And because first, there is no standard. Second, they probably got the idea more from sci-fi other than real example, because there are not many examples out there. So they just use their imagination to fill the gap, and that makes it difficult to communicate. And we do feel that some standard will really help in this case. Now here, let me talk a little bit about the high-layer software that I talked about earlier. And you are welcome to visit us at booth 515. We have this demo there. It will show you how multiple parties can participate in one, we call it a side-by-side AR communication. And the typical case here is a remote expert or several remote experts. We have tried that also with the hospitals, where a surgeon in a big city, they can help the clinics, the physicians in a remote village, and they successfully help them to diagnose some, let me see. In that case, I remember they had a patient who suffered some pain in the knee and in her knees, and the physician on site, they were just unable to, because there are so many possibilities. So they needed a remote assistant, and that helped them to narrow down, not to pinpoint the exact cause, but effectively narrowed it down to several possibilities. Of course, in the industry, we have found it really helpful in SQE. That is a very special scenario where the quality control people, before they used to travel half of the year to different suppliers to check the status, and now with the smart glass on site, it saves them 90% of the time and the cost, that they can have the suppliers do the check for themselves. And that is so that is more convenient and realistic than the what we show here as the emergency case. The emergency case is a good example, but what really happens now is that on a regular basis, the industries, they use this technology. And they do have this for the emergency case, but the real application happens more in a regular basis when where they used to do it on a weekly basis. Now the hardware that we have put together to enable these applications, we have a whole series of them. At the starter, we have the binocular, which you can also experience at our booth. For some scenarios where they require more lightweight applications and lightweight hardware, we also have the monocular and even smart camera kind of device. Especially the smart camera device, it's very cost effective, and they can be mass product, and it can be deployed in large quantities. So the enterprises, they love it because they can easily throw it to all their field engineers. And before that, they had problems of knowing where they are, what they are doing, and if they are really doing the required procedures. And now with this device on, immediately they have a way to monitor them, even though, as I said, they still require a smart AI-assisted algorithm to analyze all the data, because now they have a huge data problem. But on the first, with the first step, at least the result is very promising. Now the workers, with this device on, knowing that they are already monitored, so they just, the problem, I would say, for now is almost 80% of the problems, they can have a solution for that. Now, a few cases, but I will first just let me move to the things. So this is a case where we built this application for the sales department of this basically is a cars company, cars.com in China. So they can have a AR-enabled showroom just in your living room. Let me see if I can play that. It saves the customers a lot of time before they can actually go to a dealer's. They can really browse all the models, see the features, and see the exciting new functions. And then when they are really interested, they can contact the dealers and get a real hand experience there. Now, this is just the video that I showed you at the beginning. And this is actually deployed with Huawei and with the help of China Mobile. Now, this shows how this can be applied in a city management scenario. Because a lot of cities in China, they are renovating their underground tunnel systems and putting a lot of sensors in that. And to manage that, they really need a technology to get them to see through it more conveniently, rather than having to look at a screen and trying to figure out which sensor is where and telling what. So this is a collaboration we had with Alibaba to show them how AR can be applied in a smart city management scenario. This probably is not a video, so this is where we have applied our technology to the manufacturing workflow with Schneider. So they first use the remote assistant feature to help the manager and the field engineers to communicate more efficiently. And also, as I said, they also almost immediately found that it's necessary not only to communicate, not only to record, but also to have AI to help them to recognize, to analyze the scenario. That will be the next step. So with that, I would gladly conclude my talk, and thank you very much.